Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors. Dr. Allen chats with successful investors exploring their journey from setback to triumph. Through this window, we glimpse the truths that inspire our guests to invest abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. And now your host, Dr. Allen.
Hello, viewers and listeners. Welcome to Creekside Chats. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. Our guest today has over 25 years in corporate leadership, primarily in risk management and governance. Currently, he serves as the Chief Compliance and Audit Officer at a large academic institution. He holds an MBA in finance and is a CPA. He began his real estate career with the purchase of a duplex. As a private money lender in single-family remodeling throughout Florida, Ohio, and Texas, he underwrote projects in excess of $2.5 million. As general partner in InvestArc Properties, he holds 250 units and is passively invested in over 2,500 doors. Welcome, Randy Langendorfer.
Welcome, Randy. I'm so pleased to have you on our show today, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you as the person you are and the person behind that marvelous success story of yours. So, Randy, would you just start out by telling us how it is that you ended up being an entrepreneur and how that entrepreneurship actually led to your investing in multifamily real estate?
Well, and first, thanks. It's a real pleasure to be on your show. Hopefully, we can provide some value to your listeners today. And again, just really appreciate the opportunity to talk. To answer your question, as a young man, I grew up in coming into my adult life in the early '80s, and I actually went to grad school and did an MBA thesis on entrepreneurship. Because at that time I was a young man in the corporate world and starting a young family and dreamed of doing something on my own business, whatever that might be. Didn't have a clue at that time, but actually did my graduate thesis in that subject of where do entrepreneurs get their ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Then got busy in life, and as I said, working, raising a family, all those things that kind of distract from your long-term goals. And in my
responsibilities, that get in the way.
Mortgage, 3 mouths to feed, et cetera, et cetera.
They take precedence, don't they?
They bring the reality to life that we all face. And then in my mid-40s, I really wanted to buy a business, and I looked while still employed because I'm an MBA, CPA, as I said, and so I'm always driven towards the numbers and see the upside in small businesses, and looked at a lot of different small businesses. I was living in the Cleveland, Ohio market at the time, and looked at a lot of small manufacturing companies, but I didn't understand the concept of syndication and raising money through others. And so that was step 2 in my journey. And then when I, coming out of the 8 and 9 Great Recession, I had a brother-in-law who was displaced, and from corporate America, a guy I really love and respect. He got me into flipping houses of all things. And then from there, I realized how much work that was, and to have a job on top of that was challenging and more than I wanted to do. And I learned about multifamily about that. And that was about 2014, late 2013. And I learned that the power of syndication, of raising money, and that I didn't have to have $3 or $4 million of my own to buy a property. And so I jumped headfirst into some educational opportunities, did a lot of networking, and that was the start of the journey.
Well, going back to your MBA, what exactly was the topic?
It was simply where do entrepreneurs find their ideas? And don't ask much more besides that, because I don't remember. That was a long time ago. But I know that was the topic, and I spent 75 to 100 pages on that. So
yes, I can relate to that. I couldn't tell you anything about my doctoral dissertation at this point in time, so it was just something to get out of the way there. So, so Randy, going back to your childhood, did you have any family members who were business people, entrepreneurs, or did you have any models there?
I really did not. My parents were classic, post-war children. My father was an engineer. My mother was a nurse, stay-at-home mom, 3 siblings, 2 older brothers, younger sister. They all got jobs and did the traditional mindset of life. But I was just always kind of drawn to it. I was just always drawn to it. I guess the independence.
Right.
Kind of an independent spirit, and like to be, I guess, think of myself in that manner of independent and willing to take some risk. So made several risk moves on the corporate side over the years. And to that event, I think entrepreneurship is another big title, is how do people act like entrepreneurs in a big company, is a topic called entrepreneurship. And I'd like to think of myself as one of those today.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I felt within while I was in academia. I was always looking to develop new programs and new things. So I always kind of felt like I was on that entrepreneurial track, even while I was working in that very, very structured environment of academia.
Yeah, and it's probably difficult to put a title on that when you're living through it, but I think it is something that many of us experience.
Right. And I mean, I think there's a lot of skills that I think are transferable, and yet there's a lot of things that are very different too, from going from very structured environments to a really open entrepreneurial environment there. But still, a lot of skills that are transferable there. But just so we can know you better, can you tell us a little bit more about your childhood? You didn't have necessarily entrepreneurial models. What was it like for you as a boy growing up in Ohio?
I was, I'd like to think of myself as pretty typical, blessed with 2 loving parents who always put their family above their own aspirations. And I said stay-at-home mom, dad that classic, worked for Whirlpool Corporation for 34 years and then retired in his early 60s. And brothers that played athletics. I was the typical kid growing up who, whenever you saw me, I had a basketball in my hand. I was shooting hoops, and I had aspirations of being an NBA player, and a superstar and all that stuff. And like many people, got my dreams crushed when I was in high school. I had a problem. I couldn't shoot or dribble. But other than that, I was pretty good. I was pretty good. Yeah. And I actually ended up transferring to football, and I actually played a year of Division III football, and then quickly realized again that I should get an education, because I wasn't going to make any money at football. And so that was early in my life. And so then I transferred into the educational realm while in college, and realized that the value in that education, and graduated, went to work in the oil and gas industry at Marathon Oil Company in Findlay, Ohio at the time, before the first oil embargo of the mid 80s, and lived through that first big dip in the market, and realized I wanted to continue my education. So I got an MBA, and then got into healthcare of all things, then into private equity, and today I'm in academia. So.
Yeah, you're in a consulting company now?
I'm actually Academic Medical Center, Houston, Texas. I work in the governance areas. I'm the Vice President of Compliance, Privacy, Audit, and IT Security for a large academic medical center in Houston, Texas.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So not your
traditional real estate path.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of paths to real estate, but so you spent a lot of time in Ohio. Really, you haven't been in Houston for too very long, have you?
I've been in Houston for 7 years, so I am a lifelong Buckeye, and I'm kind of proud of it. It was a great place.
Not many of those around.
it is definitely a dwindling crowd.
Yes, yes, indeed. I guess everybody moving to the warmer climates, although the climate is moving north, so maybe Cleveland will be the place to be in a few years from now.
It's seen its resurgence as well, like many of those older Rust Belt towns. But we enjoy the South, enjoy the winters. Grew up in a lot of snow and for a lot of years, and don't miss it at all. But also, I don't think I'll ever get used to the heat of the South during the summer. So.
I spent about 5 years in Kingsville, Texas, and never ever did I get used to the heat in Kingsville. It's but I grew up in Colorado, and so I have a real different take on the snow than probably people in Ohio do. I love it, and that was my sport, was skiing.
Okay. Downhill, cross country?
Downhill, yeah. Cross country is too much work. So you've found a lot of success in a lot of different things. Can you tell us a little bit, because people don't like to talk about this, but if people want to get to know you, they want to know you from they don't want to know what's just plastic about you. They want to know what's real about you. So can you talk to us about a major disappointment, and how it is did you deal with that, and what are some of the things you learned from that disappointment?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm going to divide that between personal and kind of business. And I think on the personal side, I would say that I mentioned early in my life of wanting to be a big time athlete, right. And that was kind of understated, maybe not big time, but at least at the collegiate level. And so I bet there wasn't a day that I would play basketball and work out 5-6 hours a day, every day during the summer, during high school, with that aspiration, and was willing to pay the dream. And it came down to not that anybody really cares, but in transparency, I was a junior in high school, and I was put on the JV team at the time, basketball wise, because and that would have never been done, because we were just so packed with talent. And though I consider myself actually pretty good, I make light of myself, I was a pretty good basketball player, but we just were stacked with talent. So I got pushed down and quickly realized kind of the hard knocks of life, right? How to lose, how to get no fault of your own. You're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And and how to deal with failure when you were so bent on success, and recognizing that it wasn't a God-given right. It was something that you had to still earn and pick yourself up. So I think at that time I diverted myself at that very senior year in high school. I dropped playing basketball, and I said I went out to play football. And we went on to have a lot of success at that time of my life, with an undefeated season. And I got a small Division III scholarship, as I said, and was able to play a year of ball when I realized that the collegiate level is so different than the high school level. And, even at the Division III level, it's a business. It's a business. And
even at Division III, huh?
And this was years ago. I can't imagine what it is today. And it was just took the fun out of it. And so those would be the early personal disappointments in my life. That seems like nothing to anybody, but other people.
No, that's major, because you had really had your heart set on something, and then you were just really smacked in the face and really smacked down in a really difficult way. Not only is that difficult, well, I mean, that would be difficult for adults, but there you were in the middle of your adolescent years, with hormones raging and all of the uncertainty of life and everything that goes along with adolescence. And there you came face to face with a very disappointing reality. So I can imagine there was a tremendous amount of emotions involved in that. So tell us a little bit more about that. What was the experience like going through that?
Yeah, it was one of those ones where on the outside, no one would have ever noticed any difference. No one would have ever thought anything. Everybody would have still thought I was on track and okay and that stuff. But on the inside, it was killing me, and it was a personal failure. And there's nobody harder on yourself than yourself.
Right?
And I can remember my mother telling me, Randy, nobody's ever going to care 5 years from now, let alone know that you played football or basketball in high school. But it meant everything to me at the time.
Exactly. Right.
And she was absolutely right in retrospect. And subsequently, I have been able to mature and take that thought processes, that focus, that intensity into other aspects of my life. That I will cherish that experience forever in terms of defining who I am, but also redefining me who I became as an adult.
Well, you mentioned that nobody from the outside really knew what was going on. You did mention that. I guess your mother was there as some support and probably understood it perhaps even more than you really thought she did at the time. But it sounds like it was something you basically went through on your own without really having much of a support system there to really understand what was going on. Is that the case?
I'd say I had a support system, but like any 16-year-old or 17, 18-year-old, you're not able or willing to seek out help. I would say my family was very supportive when I would let them in. When I would be able to talk about it. But like most kids that age and guys, I grew up with the thought that was a sign of weakness, and men don't show weaknesses.
Exactly.
And so you get up and you put your head down and you go out and do whatever it takes to become successful.
Right.
That was just that was for pansies to sit around and cry about it. And I would say my parents loved me immensely, but they weren't going to let me wallow in my self-pity either and told me to go out and play football and be successful.
So was that from their idea to go play football, or was that?
No, I don't think it was their idea. Actually, it was actually a high school football coach who kind of came knocking and said, why don't you do this? I had played both sports previously and had decided to concentrate on basketball because that was my first love. And then my senior year in high school, the high school football coach came knocking and said, why don't you do this? And once I got over my pride, that isn't the path I necessarily chose. It was a ton of fun. We went undefeated, went on to the state playoffs, had a great season, and able to.
Good. Yeah. Well, it's good you found a way to come back from that, even though it certainly would be a major disappointment, particularly when you had your heart set on that.
Yeah.
But I suspect that's probably not the last of disappointments because life comes with lots of disappointments. But we've only got 20 minutes here today, so let's talk a little bit more here about some of the positive things and how is it that you are able to stay positive when the whole world seems like it's pushing against you and pushing you down and wanting you to get out of the way. How do you maintain a spirit of positivity and keep on pushing and keep on going?
Well, I would say that like anybody, I'd like to say that I'm always positive and always upbeat. But if you were to talk to my wife today, she would probably show you some areas where other people don't see as readily available as she may. Living with me and being my partner for 30 some years. But I think for the most part, it's really when you get to be, I don't know how old I was, but you get to a point to realize that to me, success is helping build into other people's lives today, whether it be my children or my colleagues at work, helping people in my office try to figure out their own careers as to what they want to do. I love real estate because there's people all over the spectrum from beginners and there's always something to learn and always somebody to share with. And so I'd like to think that, you as I'll say mature / older gentleman, you start to build into others and realize that your longevity and your epitaph is going to be won by what you do for others, not necessarily the balance sheet you accumulate.
Right. So can you give us perhaps maybe a specific example of how that might play out in your life?
Well, one, I'd say on a professional basis, I had a woman who works for me, small example, who came to me and told me she was applying for another job and was afraid I was going to dismiss her and fire her. And I had to say quite the contrary. If that's what she wanted to do, I wanted to help her.
Mm-hmm.
And I put in a great recommendation for her, and ended up turning out that she got the job. And I said, why would I do something like that? It's my job is to help you succeed as a leader. That's what leaders do. On a real estate basis, I'm a coach in the Rod Khleif organization today. I love to work with younger and new people coming into the real estate space, because I think it's a space that a lot of people should be in that probably aren't. And there's something for everybody in that space. And so I really enjoy coaching them as well. And two short examples, as well as I have 4 children and 4 grandchildren, just a 4th grandchild that we love to build into as well.
Wonderful. Can you share with us a flow experience of yours, and a time when you just lost track of time and place, and you were so engrossed in an activity that you weren't thinking of whether it was feeling good, feeling bad. You just were totally lost in that activity. Could you share with us?
Yeah, for me, those activities come from, as I mentioned, my early nature. By nature, I'm a very competitive person. That's just the way I've been wired, and I don't mean that. I don't think it's over the top negative, but it is an aspect of my personality. So I become engrossed and can tune out the whole world when I'm on the golf course today, thinking about nothing else other than I probably should be thinking about other things, but other than the round that's before me. It used to be in my younger life in basketball and football operations. Today it tends to be golf, and don't think I'm a good golfer, but I enjoy the sport immensely. And the other place that happens for me today, Alan, as well, is early on, and even today in the real estate world, I can become very focused on an opportunity that I want to make happen, or gee, how aggressive do I need to be on this, and can be consuming for me. But then also like to think that I'm able to step back and say there's got to be a balance too. So that comes with age, and I think maturity.
Well, they tell us in the mental health world that that relationships and finding a place where we can find flow is an important part of our mental health, and also an important part of our mental health and well-being is being able to find a purpose or a meaning in life that is actually bigger than we are. So some people refer to that as spirituality. Others have other names for it. But can you share with us, what is it in your life that that brings to you meaning and purpose, that takes you away from who you are and takes you above who you are?
It's a great question. Pondered that one for just a second here or two, but I think for me, there's several aspects to that question. And
yeah, it's a complex question.
It's a complex question, but at the end of the day, I tell people I hope that I will never be recognized as the world's greatest real estate investor. That would be a stretch, obviously, even to imply that. But I hope I'm never known as the world's greatest real estate investor. I hope I'm known as a husband, a father, a man of faith who tries to live that faith on a daily basis, and recognizing there's a higher calling than just, again, our balance sheet. And that's part of the perspective of giving back to others, to recognize we want to leave the world a better place than what we found it in. And contrary to popular opinion, I think we can do that on an individual by individual, case by case basis in our small little world.
Well, Randy, we're coming to the end of our time here. I do have one last question. But before I get to that, could you share with our viewers and our listeners, how can they get hold of you?
Thanks. Yeah, would love to chat with anybody that has a desire to any of the comments today or about real estate or basically anything else in between. And there's the easiest way to get a hold of me is on my webpage, invest.ark.com. That's invest-ark.com. And under the investors portion of that tool there, you can ping me. I'd love to reach out to you and set up a phone call to get better acquainted.
Wonderful. Well, the last question I have for you, and then I'm going to give you just a moment to just sum things up and give your last word to our viewers and our listeners. But my last question is, what do you want to read? What do you want to have read on your epitaph when you leave here?
Great question. I'm going to take the chickens way out and say I won't have a tombstone. I'll be cremated, so there won't be an epitaph on the tombstone. But I think I'd like to be known if to summarize at the end of the day. I often say, what are my children going to do? Say when they're standing around my grave one day. Will they say, "Here lies Dad. He made lots of money," or "Here lies Dad. He made the greatest real estate investor"? I hope they say, "Here lies Dad. He was a godly man and really built into our lives and helped us transition into our own adult lives. And that he was a good father and a good husband." Pure and simple. I don't think it has to be any more deep than that.
That's pretty deep and pretty powerful. So, what last words do you have for our viewers and for our listeners?
Nothing profound other than just to say thanks for the opportunity again. Love to assist and build into anybody that's in the listening podcast that may find value or want to reach out and talk. And Alan, again, appreciate you coordinating this today and just taking the time together.
Well, Randy, it's been a pleasure. And thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for tuning in to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital works with both new and established investors nationwide, creating opportunities to flourish in all areas of life. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. For resources to enhance your well-being through multifamily real estate investment, connect with us online at capital.steedtalker.com.